Welcome back to the Global Cash Summit. I'm your host, Cassandra Bourne, and this next segment is on I've been deeply looking forward to. Our guest today is nothing short of extraordinary. Brenda Adelman is a speaker, trainer, story alchemist, and award-winning performer whose work has touched audiences across the world. She is a woman who has taken the most unimaginable pain and transformed it into power and then into purpose. Her one woman show on forgiveness has reached over 13,000 people across the US and Europe. From military bases to women's prisons, from theaters to youth centers, she has been featured on CBS, Fox TV, News, NPR, and stages where courage, truth, and raw humanity meet. But here is what I love most. Brenda doesn't just teach storytelling, she teaches soul reclamation through story. She doesn't just help people speak. She helps them rise, reclaiming their voice, their presence, and their emotional freedom. As a director of over 200 storytellers, she has this breathtaking ability to see the gold inside someone's lived experience and help them craft a talk or performance that is not only unforgettable, but liberating. And today she is here with us to deliver a message every entrepreneur needs to hear, especially those who have been hiding in plain sight. Forgive yourself for not being visible. This conversation is going to be special, it's going to be honest, and it's going to set so many of you free. Brenda, it is an absolute honor to welcome you to the Global Cash Summit.
Thank you for that wonderful introduction. It's my pleasure to be here. Unleash some people's voices and their talent and their passion.
Now, one of the core outcomes of your talk is helping people release the shame around not showing up sooner. Why is self-forgiveness the first step to visibility?
I think it's the first step for so many things because we can give every kind of strategy to someone to, set up their cameras correctly or how to formulate your story and how to make the pitch and things like that. But if someone feels shame, they're not going to do it. Or they're going to do it and you're going to see it on their face. And that's what happens with video all the time. Like I remember learning as an actress about, video acting versus stage acting. The camera catches everything. So if someone is carrying the baggage of not forgiving themselves for not showing up like they could have, or thoughts of I should be further along than I am right now, or any of those things, well, I it's this push and pull of like, well, I'm here, but then you can see on their face or something, they're not completely there. Like especially on camera, it's being fully transparent so people can see you. The key to healing that is self-love, which is activated through self-forgiveness. So
Mm.
that's why I think it's first because it's like knowing yourself, not compartmentalizing, not, bringing that baggage with you of like, why didn't I do this? Why aren't I making more money? Why aren't I more visible? Why can't I just say yes to more opportunities? Like actually looking at it, but from the place of self-love, self-care, self-honor versus punishing ourselves and making ourselves wrong.
I think you're right. And I think there are so many entrepreneurs who feel exactly that same way. I have had times in my life where I felt the same way, where I felt a lot of shame around not showing up for myself. With all of the incredible gifts and abilities that I had, I was not showing up for myself to be the woman that I knew I could be. And that I was not using all my gifts and my abilities. And then there are times when, in that segment of my life, I can look back and see, I had to give myself grace because I was caring for my mom who had a stroke and she was 24/7 dependent. And for 10 years, I took care of her. I honored her and I gave her love and I denied myself. Um, and I had to learn how to love myself through that and to be forgiving and to do the best that I could at the time that I could do it, because I think most people do actually that. I think most people do the best that they can do with the opportunities that they have in the moment, based on their experiences. But that guilt, that shame, can really be debilitating and it can prevent us from being able to take that breath and to say, okay, no, pick your socks off, pick your socks up, dust yourself off, start all over again. Let's go, let's go, let's go. And so I love that you reclaim your voice and other people get to reclaim their voices through stories. So you use story, especially our true stories, as a reclamation tool. So, how does storytelling help people reclaim their voice, especially when they've been silenced by fear, by comparison, and past experiences?
Yeah, well, a couple of things, but I just want to put a pin on that last segment because just to give people a way to forgive themselves. Like it can just start with as simple as putting your hands on your heart and saying, I forgive myself for judging myself for all those times I didn't show up for myself. The truth was I was protecting myself. I didn't feel safe, but I feel safe now. Something like that, right? Because also that shame is often triggered by something that happened when you were a kid, and maybe it was safer to feel invisible, but now you're an adult and now you can be safe in your body. It's just a matter of practicing that.
Mm-hmm.
So then the next question was about how does sharing your story help you reclaim a sense of yourself? It's so incredible, my story is that my father shot and killed my mother and married her sister in 1995, something that certainly almost took me down for a while. But what I learned first in writing my story down on the pages of my journal during my sleepless nights before I ever performed in public was I got to witness my story instead of keep it in my head and be like, I hate my father. I love my father. I can't go on. I can go on. I got to witness what I went through. And that in itself is a reclamation because I had so much compassion for myself at every age stage as my inner child, and where I was then doing the best I can. Like you're talking about doing the best I could to just keep going. So partly we're like growing our story up from the different age stages we have, but then we're owning it and saying, what can I learn here? And one of the things I wanted to share was that the way you find your story is obviously you can start from a big one, like what happened to me, and say, okay, how did this affect me? How is it relevant to my life now? Is there something I can learn from? So it helps you to heal. And I've had so many clients over the years. I'd say the other half of some people think their story is way too big. Nobody would be able to relate to it. Partly it's because they haven't done the healing yet. If you've done the healing, you know that what you have to share, what you've lived through, is going to help other people. And then the other half think, I'm not important. I have nothing to say. Why would anyone listen to me? Dismissing themselves, I can guarantee you, like an adult dismissed them when they were younger, because you're relevant, because you're here. Every single one of those clients didn't have murder in their family, thank God. Instead, though, they had often isolation or like a parent that they identify as narcissistic who they didn't feel like they had a voice. But that's a human condition. A lot of us don't feel like we are heard or seen. So that's a beautiful story to share too. And again, it's a place of healing because it's like, oh, I am valuable just because. And then, of course, learning the skills to tell your story in a captivating way is so important because people can be entrepreneurs can be so courageous and vulnerable and go and share their vulnerable story that they were coached to do without from a coach who didn't know there's a healing component of this that needs to be dealt with first, but they would share their vulnerable story, which was probably never shared before for a reason, for that survival mechanism, but then because they still had the emotion around it. So I teach about emotional stuff and healing that, but they also didn't learn the skills beyond, okay, this is the formula. And so then it doesn't land and they internalize that as if they're still not good enough. They still have nothing to say instead of just learning the tools so that you can tell it in a captivating way so it lands with your audience.
Hmm. You know, I often say to people, and I've said this so many times to my clients, you know, you are so special. There is only one of you on the planet. You know, God thought you were so worthy that he breathed breath into your lungs and said, this one gets to live because they get to contribute to the world with all their gifts and abilities and all of their experiences. Like every life experience that we've had, whether it's been good or bad, have shaped who we become today. And they also will shape who we become tomorrow. And that's why it's so important to have grace with yourself and to also, as you said, forgive yourself first. Yes. And also see how you are so powerful and so strong to have gone through and survived. Every single person is a survivor because they're here today. You have been 100% victorious in surviving everything that has been thrown at you in this life because you are still breathing to this very day. And I really truly believe if you are still breathing, it's because you have something still important to offer the world. That there are people who need to hear what it is that you can share. You have the solution to a problem that for you, it's just like breathing. It's so easy. But for someone else, it's a terrible struggle. So there is a purpose and a plan for every single one. And if you really tap into yourself and you find that, those words self-love when I was younger, what self love, what's that? But then you learn that you see yourself and perhaps you've been cruel to yourself in your head. The language that you use in your head. I will share something personal. I used to be 428 pounds and I'm at 5 foot 3.5. So that was really severe. Now I've lost over 200 pounds, kept it off for the last 10 years. Thank you very much. But
Congratulations.
thank you. But at that time, I can look back and every single word and thought in my head was so disgusting. The hate I had towards myself, the language, the cruelty, the things that I said to myself were always worse than anyone could ever throw at me. And when I look back now, I think, wow, that was terrible. You would really put someone in jail for speaking like that to someone. But I said that stuff in my head all day long to myself. And it takes work. We have to be willing to take that step and make ourselves a priority and to say no longer. No longer will I tolerate this. No longer do I want to live this life. No longer do I want to be this person. And, this is the last time that this is going to happen. And make a decision. It's really a matter of you making a decision. Because no matter how many different people wanted to help me, no matter how many diets I went on, no matter how many organizations I went to, you could talk to me till you were blue in the face, and nothing is going to change that girl, only herself. And so you all have to recognize that it is you. The power is in with you to make the changes that you need to make to be the person that you want to be, to live the life that you want to be. And you get to take that step, and you could be today. You could make that decision in this very moment. In this very moment, you could decide that no longer will you tolerate your experience, and you can make a decision to make a change and start taking the steps and the action to make those changes. And every single consistent step that you make will get you to a new place. So,
Wait, I want to add something to that, because
sure.
that's really true. And people just talk terribly to themselves. It reminded me that at the time my father killed my mom, and I was still in my head about everything and just so devastated, I gained 20 pounds like within a month. And I had been so diligently trying to keep my weight off since I was younger. And I started talking so horribly to myself. And I was like, "You're so stupid. How could you do that?" All this stuff. And what I realized, my insight was that I was focused on that and bullying myself so I didn't have to deal with the real issue, which was my father and how I felt about him. So the other part I think to add to this is that look at maybe what's behind that. Is there something else you haven't looked at that you're using that bullying behavior to keep away from the real thing? And then just love yourself so much and know that you can handle it, get the help that you need so that you can, it's twofold. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think just to add on what you said, I think it's very good that that's great insight there. But also, sometimes like what we think it is. If you, for example, take a look at yourself and you think, okay, well, what is it that's causing me to do whatever behavior it is that is the undesirable behavior, right? So it could be anything. Everybody has their own challenges. But say you take a look at yourself and you think, okay, is it this? Sometimes people will search for like an event, a thing, like what happened with your father, like a something. But sometimes it might be even more than that. It might even be more than that. So you might be totally focused and think, no, but I'm doing all these things right because I want that life. So why would I be bullying myself to prevent myself from having this life? It could be something else. It could be absolutely something else. So you do need to take a stock of your life.
What do you mean, though, by it could be
Okay, so
something?
I'll give you an example. So, at that time, I'm an internationally, trained opera singer, and I'm sort of retired from singing right now. I'm not singing professionally anymore. However, that was my goal. That was my only goal. That's all I wanted to do. I just wanted to be number one. I wanted to be the best. I wanted to get all the leads, which I did, and I wanted to have great success, and that's all I wanted. And I worked towards that every single moment of the day. But I also knew no one was going to hire me looking like that. So, right? Because the industry can tell you, oh, yes, of course, we'll hire you. And we have other singers that are huge, which is true. There was several of them, but I won't name them. But, there were several in my industry that were very huge with large voices like mine. And I kind of identified with them because, large voice type, large size body, they generally often go hand in hand. But, even though I was doing all the right things, I was also not handling the weight situation and just kind of ignoring it. Even though I would like go on a diet here, I'd lose 100 pounds, I'd gain 150 in 4 months. I'd lose another 100 pounds, I'd gain another 150 in 4 months. It was crazy. It was just back and forth. And I just couldn't get a handle on things, but I needed to really take a look at and see, is this what you really want? Is
Interesting.
this really what you want? Because you're not doing
Hmm.
everything that you could to get that. The one big thing that is is standing in your way, and I knew it in my head. I knew it 24 hours a day. I was just not managing that one situation. So why are you not doing that if you know that those are all the other things? And there was a fear there. There was a fear. There was a fear of maybe I don't want this. Maybe I don't want that lifestyle. Maybe I don't,
Right.
maybe
Sometimes we're so attached to what we think we want because we've been thinking about it for so long.
yes. And we are doing all the right things, moving towards that direction. But that maybe that one big thing that's preventing us is our protecting ourselves from not knowing that we would not enjoy all aspects of what
Interesting.
we're looking
Yeah.
for. That's what
Yeah.
I meant by it. It's like
Okay.
look
Interesting. I
for
just
like
wanted
that.
some clarity. Yeah. Interesting. Yeah.
Yes.
So multi-layered. Yes.
Yeah, and we're such smart people. We are humans, we're smart, but we are protecting ourselves with this ego, right? This silent ego that's working behind the scenes, right? And so we are protecting ourselves, even though we think and we say and we talk and we act like want something. Maybe you
Well,
don't
it's
want
true. And that even goes down back to the first topic we were talking about. Visible, just know you've been protecting yourself. But what if you could be kind about that instead of making yourself wrong?
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so powerful. So something that everybody can take a look at in their lives. Maybe it's not as extreme as having a murder in the family or having, 428 pounds, right? So like those are pretty extreme, I would
In
say.
some ways, it's even harder to find it when it's more subtle
Yeah.
because we can make so many excuses and stuff like that. When something's huge like that, it's like you have to face it. It's like the elephant in the room. Yeah.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
I agree with you 100%. And I think that, we are very smart. We protect ourselves from ourselves oftentimes. And then I think it all ultimately comes down to it is just us. You get to make a decision. You need to get authentic and honest with yourself of what do you truly want? What do you want your life to be? What is your vision for your future? And if we actually take that time, that is self-love. And that really is. And it's okay to change your mind. It is okay to say,
Important. Yep.
yeah, that wasn't like the right path. Maybe I made that choice when I was 11 years old. And then I was just determined because I saw benefits from it along the way. But, for you, for anybody out there, it's okay to change your mind and to um, pivot.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I don't think people know that. So that's a really good point.
Yeah.
Where they think, oh, I have so much at stake because I spent all this time doing. But if you hold anything like that, you don't open up a space for something new to come in. And life is about growth and newness, you know? Yeah.
That's right. And you just never know what you thought was your great gift, your great talent. Because at the time I thought I'm only good to be a singer. I can't do anything else. Oh, I was so crazy. The things that I have done since then, the doors that have opened, the experiences that I have, the new identity that I have created for myself a million times over have been so joyous. The journey has been incredible and it opens up and you see you are so multifaceted. You have so more gifts than you thought you had. You have such more to offer the world than you ever thought you had. And then you get to like really grow into who you were meant to be. And that is so exciting. So I know that you're a master at directing speakers. Yes. So
Mhm.
what's one simple framework that someone can use today to begin crafting a 1 to 2 minute visibility story for themselves?
Well, I like to tell my storytellers because I direct talks and I also direct one-person shows. I like people to think, well, this would be the same for both. What is that secret? What is that secret that you have that you are like, no, I am not sharing that one? That is probably the key to that's the one you need to share. Now, before anybody's like, no, I just want you to know I've directed, developed over 200 storytellers, and those are the juiciest ones. And what happens when you decide to look at the secret? I didn't want to talk about my father and my mother, right? Because of the shame, only because of the shame. What happens with the people I've worked with, and I have worked with people who have had, because I'm so forthright with my story, people who have been tortured, have been sexually abused as children, have been violated, raped, have had con mans, like all these things. When they dive in to those stories, I also teach healing, but they're able to love their inner child. They're able to, I've seen it over and over again, also with the fact that I've produced so many of my storytellers. So I see when they're performing, they take their power back from whoever abused them, let's say. But it could be even as simple as in my one-woman show, I have a scene where I lost my virginity when I was 15, but it was bad. It was, I had one of my friends that slept with him, like all this stuff happened. When I started writing, it was a harrowing story. It was like, oh my God, I'm so embarrassed. How did I make that decision? And now it's like one of the funniest scenes in my one-person show. I play three characters. I'm healed. So you bring this story into light to heal. I tell my clients, you don't have to share the story, but at least they start healing it because anything we have as a secret is hurting us. It's closing our heart down to someone else or to ourselves. So that's one of the things. That is what I would say to look at. And you don't always have to share everything. I never tell my clients they have to share everything. And, sometimes you do take into consideration, like, especially people who have kids. Okay, I'll give you a break. You don't have to share it. You don't want your kids to know. But
Yeah.
usually with a parent or something else, it's like, well, you are still taking the role of a child in a relationship when you're, 40, 50 years old. Like, when are you able to tell your story? And oftentimes, the person who they don't want to share the story of that they're protecting, first of all, they're not giving them the option to take responsibility for what they did. And also, often they're not even going to see it. So I just see people holding back. So it's like, look at something that's a secret and start exploring it, even if it's for yourself at first, because that is the juiciest thing. I've had people who were drug addicts and then they share things and they share from a higher perspective. They're one step ahead. So the audience does not have to worry about you because you're one step ahead. You're not you're healing, even if you haven't completely healed. I also say you don't have to be completely healed. I know there are a lot of coaches that are like, oh, share from the scar, not the wounds. I don't know. There's a lot of generic stuff out there, but I say, because of my own experience, I was not completely healed when I started sharing. I did know how to write a scene, I did know how to do comedy and tragedy, but part of my healing was putting it on stage and exploring because as an actor, here's the other thing, you cannot play your story or what you're articulating as a victim. So I personally jump into the different characters of my life. So if I'm playing my father, I can't play him as a villain only because a good actor would not play themselves as a villain. So I got to get the nuances and start to have compassion for him, which didn't mean I didn't take him to court for wrongful death, which I did when he got out of prison, but I got to see a man with thwarted expectations, with mental illness, and it opens my heart so that I can open my heart in other relationships. So those are a couple of the things.
Yeah. And now you've trained entrepreneurs, performers, TEDx speakers, and something you teach beautifully is presence, which is so important for everyone, yeah? So what does it mean to step into your presence like a performer? I could have my perspective, but I would love to hear yours. And how does that transform the way someone shows up online, on stage, even on a sales call?
Yeah, presence is no apology. I see a lot of people that are apologizing. They apologize when you see them on videos. They're already thinking about, oh, nobody's here live. Who the F cares? Like you're sharing what's on your heart, what your message is. Most people watch replays. Like there's no apology. There's presence and there's confidence. So that's one thing. And then also people are like that in sales calls. Like, oh, I wrote something down. Here it is. You know how a lot of people shift into selling as service, which is beautiful when you actually realize that. It's also that visibility can be an art. So selling as service, you don't want any apology. You're offering something beautiful that someone can take you up on or not. So if you also have your self-esteem tied into if someone purchases or not, then that is also going to diminish your presence. But what if you just show up as the light that you are, and then you make an offer and someone either takes it or they don't take it? It has nothing to do with you. Just like I say, other people's judgments have nothing to do with me. And that's the same. People are so nervous about showing up because people are going to judge them. People are going to mock them. Yeah, sometimes that does happen because of the way of the internet, which is awful. But the only people who judge and mock are people who I would say status wise are lower than you because people who are confident and present are not going to mock you or judge you. So then you just go next with those people. So it's like not personalizing things. So presence is stepping up without apology, but I will say that you can have more presence when you have skill, when you know that what you're sharing is powerful. You know the structure. You know how to speak with people so they feel you versus having that layer of disconnect. I remember looking at old photos, headshots of me from way, way too long ago to mention the date, but I just remember there were some headshots that were so good and so connected, and then there were the others, and I see this on video where there's just like a layer. An invisible layer between me and the camera. So it's like a pulling in. And those are the kind of things that I teach people. Like how do you pierce the camera? And if you're on stage, and you know this as someone on stage, how do you make sure that people at the end of the room hear you? Because I do see, I have clients who come to me after they've learned how to speak in these big programs, and then I'll watch their video, and their energy either stops at the edge of the stage or in the first row where their friends are. Well, that's not piercing anything. So if we're all energy, you want your presence to fill the room.
Mhm. Yeah. I often say to my students, my singing students, in order for you to be able to reach the very back of the theater and to reach into that person's heart and soul and to be able to communicate the message that you're trying to say. And this is the same with a sales call. This is the same with how we coach. This is the same in life. We need to go within. It is by going deep inside and authentically connecting to that human spirit, that which you can share, that which you believe in. That is how you get the message across to people, by going deep inside yourself. So it is you, it is your decisions, it is how you show up. I love this. That's so great.
Yeah, it's know thyself. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. Yes. Now, for those watching, visibility is often an emotional experience before it's strategic. Would you be willing to guide us through a short moment, maybe a grounding, forgiveness, or a presence practice that helps people to soften that fear of being seen on camera?
Yeah, there's something I do. Well, let me give you something that I tell my clients on stage, but you can do that on camera as well. On stage, because so many people get nervous, like they might have their talk done, but then they're so nervous to get on there. It's about getting when they're on stage, it's about getting out of your head and into your body. So I will literally tell my clients to like like pinch their thumb. Nobody can see it, but it hurts just enough or it gets you out of your head and into your body. On video, like the reason why storytelling is so important is if you're really going within, like you're saying, and then sharing what you have to share about your story, and you know that you want to open someone's heart. So bring in an intention. You're not just sharing to hear yourself speak. You want to open somebody else's heart, so it takes it off of you. So then you're in your body and it's out of you. That will help you not be scared. Getting out of your head and into your body will help you. So one of the exercises I also do, certainly before I go on stage, is I'll do the stomping. Get into my body, get into my body. And I will, you know, learn this, I think, in the 90s in New York in the Shakespeare
Tapping,
program.
tapping, yeah.
Yeah, but like hard, like all move, get my blood flowing so that then I already feel it right now. So you can definitely do it before video. So now I'm here and present. I'm not just in my head. I'm not just a talking Zoom, box like the Brady Bunch. I'm like here with you. And so that's a good one. I say sometimes on video, people need to calm down, and that would be, put some Enya on, put some calm music on, relax, and other people really need to be energized, and so put some rock music on before, dance a little, move your body. I always say move your body. And for video in particular, I tell people to
Yeah.
make sure their jaws are
Really focus.
calm because a lot of our tension is there.
That's right. That's right. Absolutely. Well, she's speaking my language. I
And I'm
totally,
not even a singer,
that's
although
right.
I've had to sing. Yeah.
Well, I'm just a singing actress, so we're both the same, right? So
Yeah.
you're leading a powerful workshop coming up called Roar on stage. So what transformation can participants expect from that experience?
I have seen so many transformations in that. I've seen entrepreneurs who definitely do not define themselves as actors, and I would say are even a bit stuck and maybe a little robotic,
Mhm.
into becoming presenters that are so engaging and so interesting so that they can have their business videos, um, posted on their socials and they can be proud of it. A lot of people are very embarrassed about their videos and stuff like that. And then you just create one or two of those, and you're set because you put them on YouTube, just make sure it does the selling for you. And then I had my client Rita who had her first talk scheduled. She's a domestic violence survivor. And she did her first talk after maybe she was in like 3 weeks, and they invited her back. She sold out all her books. What I helped her with a lot is her structure of her storytelling and not repeating things and having some moments stand out, because a lot of people also, everything is the same, so then nothing is important. So you can expect complete transformation in how you tell a story and how you present a story. And at the end of the 5-week program, you'll have a 5-minute talk either ready for stage that you can use always, and you'll be learning my technique so you can have it, become a longer piece and or a 5-minute business video.
Now, why is it so important for our entrepreneurs to have this resource created to help sell their products, their services, to promote their business?
Because I don't know about you, but I've seen videos and even TED Talks from people I know who, yes, it's fantastic they did it. And they have a lot of their cheerleader friends saying how great it is, but they're not understanding the world of business and how many people they have just lost
Mm,
because they are not dynamic and they're boring. And the same thing with videos. They are just, if they're not dynamic, we are all, there's just so much noise. So you're losing that first impression. People aren't going to come back. What if you just amp that up and you have such a good dynamic presence with your personality? Because people also, I know such amazing people and they lose their personality completely on video. What if you could just be the best version of you, the most fun version of you, the fiercest version of you? And so you leave an impression instead of become one of the 80% who don't leave any impression.
yeah. Now, your free gift, My Father Killed My Mother and Married My Aunt, Forgiving the Unforgivable, is an extraordinary offering that you have for our people today. And so, what do you hope people feel or understand after reading this book?
Um, I really did pour my heart into that book. It's half memoir and it's half workbook. So you'll understand my story or my story in relation to my three-step forgiveness process and why I do which exercise where. So I have very different exercises for my first step, which is moving out of denial and into acceptance of what it is, to the second part, which is giving up your need to be right. In part one, you're like, you're such a victim. You're just getting it all out. You're angry and everything. And then, that's one of the exercises in there shows you how to do that safely. And then step two is giving up your need to be right, which a lot of people don't want to do because they feel like it's the only thing that can set a boundary with someone who's hurt them, let's say. So it's very deep. I go into what the difference is between healthy boundaries and hard boundaries and the need for both of those and things like that. And then, yeah, you'll just learn my process, which I have taught to so many people over the years, including women, prisoners, and youth at risk.
Amazing. And so, lastly, for those who have been hiding, they've been waiting, doubting, or holding on to regret, what would you love to leave them with today as their next act of self-forgiveness?
Say that again.
Well, there are many of our entrepreneurs who have maybe been hiding. They've been waiting to move forward to take that chance. They've been doubting themselves, or maybe they've been holding on to regret. So, what would you love to leave them with
Yeah.
today as their next step?
Yeah. I want you to first cancel what you've been doing with those limiting beliefs and imagine instead what's possible when you step into your strength, when you step into your glory, when you get the skills you need to make sure that your story lands because you are unique. What happens? Who do you help? Who do you heal besides yourself when you're able to step up into the magnificence of who you are? Isn't it time to let go of that old story?
Mm. Brenda, thank you so much. Thank you for the depth, the honesty, and the soul that you've brought into this space today. You have given our audience something far beyond strategy. You gave them permission. Permission to forgive themselves, permission to reclaim their voice, permission to rise without apology. Your journey, your courage, and your mastery of storytelling remind us that really that visibility is not vanity, it is liberation. And when we step into that liberation, our confidence expands, our impact deepens, and our cash flow grows as a byproduct of who we become. So, for everyone watching, if something cracked open in you today, follow it. Brenda's bonus workshop, Roar on Stage, is where you're going to take this work deeper. So, 5 weeks, your story, your voice, your presence fully developed, fully embodied, and directed by one of the best in the world. And don't forget to download her incredible free gift, My Father Killed My Mother and Married My Aunt, Forgiving the Unforgivable. It is a transformational read and an act of generosity that I know will speak directly to your heart. Brenda, you are a gift to this summit, to this community, and to anyone who is ready to step out of the shadows into their brilliance. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for sharing your truth, and thank you for reminding us that visibility begins with forgiveness.
Thank you.